Okay, this can't take very long because it's probably done by now. Okay, well, it's only going to take 10 minutes.
I mean, yeah, it only takes 10 minutes.
Less than 10 minutes?
Yeah.
You're just doing this, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So, today's vocabulary, Dad, is deliver and announce. Main vocabulary. Okay? So when we understand that the mind is the sort of if-then rules that get executed, because maybe another if-then rule was executed by some stimulus, so then that then triggers the if, right, which triggers a then. Okay, anyway. So the voice that delivers, right, so your brain is composed of lots of different voices, and the one that delivers is the one that produces an output, okay? Some voices are going to activate a voice, which we'll see, it's called slapping. Some voices are going to slap a voice. And then the ultimate one, the final one, is what we call the delivering voice, okay? Sometimes we're thinking about something and something's on the tip of our tongue. We have a decision comes to mind. We visualize an action maybe. That's an example of pre-delivering. So that's where that voice, it hasn't produced the full output of the behavior or the declaration, whatever, the statement, the belief, whatever. But it makes it to conscious awareness or something. Don't really know what that means, but I have the impression that I have voices that will pre-deliver, that I will experience without the output. Okay. Now, announce is really important. Because when we understand that we're not integrated, that every piece of activity in the mind doesn't affect every other piece of activity in the mind, we realize that there are parts that aren't communicating in the mind, right? And so what we have to do is we realize that it would be useful to announce a voice, to sort of, it's almost in the interest of neural transparency. So if you have some kind of an impulse, it's to try to understand that impulse and announce it so that the rest of the brain can engage with that impulse. Mm-hmm. And not to just assume that every piece is interacting with every other piece. I don't think that you can, by announcing it, get every piece to interact with the thing.
Verbally? It announces verbally?
Yeah, so
one speaks it?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know whether that can get all the other voices engaged, but I think that it would at least engage some of the same voices if you heard someone else say it. So by your saying it, your brain is then hearing it as an outside message, which I think should engage some voices that wouldn't have been engaged if it was just activity in here without sort of making the loop around. Without being, so you have Wernicke's area, right, which is speech interpretation. And so by you speak it, you announce it, Broca's area, speech production, and then that'll get it heard and interpreted by Wernicke's area in a way that just the activity might not. So I do think that the oral component is important to getting more engagement.
Important and necessary?
And necessary, okay. Yeah. And then Val, sometimes a piece of the mind can think a thing, can be, can have a certain idea or reaction, whatever. But then the rest of the mind doesn't really agree with it. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what humor is. It's when one voice suggests something, the other voices go, no, that's silly, but go on, send it through because that's so funny, right? Yesterday I asked you, what do you call 100 meters, right? There was a voice in you that sincerely thought of centimeter, which makes sense. We know that 100 means cent, and centimeter is a word. So there's a voice that went centimeter. And then there's another voice that went, you fool, that's 100th of a meter. And then it came out as a joke. So you didn't valet which is the past tense of val. You didn't valet that instinct, right? And a lot of times, there's a lot of behavior that politicians get in trouble for that they didn't necessarily valet. A little comment that they make that came from one mechanism that the whole brain didn't necessarily agree with. And then, of course, we're going to hold them accountable for that one mechanism of the 100,000 mechanisms in their brain, right? Even if afterwards they say, no, that was wrong. No, that didn't. Like the guy who kissed the journalist, the football player. So we don't know what he was embarrassed about, but he said that he was embarrassed after. It's possible that he was embarrassed that that the cheers from the crowd, that he delivered this kiss on the woman, right? That the voice that was triggered by the crowd delivered the voice to kiss the woman.
The excitement of the team winning.
Yeah, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so it's possible that if he were to announce that, if he even had announced that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and kiss her, maybe there would have been another thing that would have said, wait a minute. Maybe. Or maybe the excitement from the victory and all that would have been such powerful voices that he would have gone ahead and kissed her. And then afterwards gone, oh no, I don't vow that. I don't validate that. So there you go. So deliver is just when the voice produces an output. Announce is a useful technique to engage more of your voices in response to one of your voices. And then val, it's something that we should recognize, that it's only when the net sort of activity of the voices is in favor of whatever the thing is. Okay? But if only one is, then it's not valet. Great.